Yo, what's good, man? Another reaction. Got trapped in a tomb. I don't know. What's a tomb? Like a grave or something? That's what I'm assuming. Gotta be. But how you get trapped in a grave though? Like, how that happen? Let me see, man.
In early 2018, 37-year-old Rosangela Almeida dos Santos succumbed to
Damn, her name mad on.
2018. 37-year-old Rosangela Almeida dos Santos succumbed to septic shock following a lifetime of health struggles and was laid to rest and buried in a local cemetery. But
So she was. She had to be. They probably thought she was dead. She was really still alive though. Shh.
what was to follow was anything but normal and would take a bewildering turn. Reports emerged of haunting cries and disturbing noises coming from her sealed tomb, prompting speculation of a deeply unsettling possibility. Could Rosangela
Nah, that's creepy. I don't know. But she came back to life or something? Cause they put her in the grave. That mean they had to pronounce her dead. So she done came back to life.
been mistakenly put in there while still alive?
Shh.
What ensued was not just a mystery, but a contentious clash between different perspectives. But what exactly happened to her? Let's talk about it. This is the harrowing death of Rosangela dos Santos.
I can't even imagine that though. Imagine being trapped underground in a grave, like alive, buried alive. That's crazy. She don't got no type of air, none of that. Remember, she's 6 feet under, inside the casket, underground. Ain't no air. Like, I wonder how long she survived in there. They talk about they heard noise. How long it took them to?
In January of 2018, Rosangela was getting on with her day when she suffered two
Oh, that's crazy.
cardiac
That's my
arrests.
birthday.
She was promptly transported to hospital, where she further suffered septic shock, which unfortunately ended her life. Or so they thought. It came to light that Rosangela had battled serious health struggles since she was young. It wasn't uncommon for her to experience fainting spells, and she had been taking anticonvulsant medicine since she was young. Anticonvulsants being used to control epileptic seizures.
Damn.
Rosangela was pronounced dead by the doctors, and a wake was held in which her family, including her husband, attended. They all tearfully said their goodbyes, and she was laid to rest at the cemetery in Riachão das Neves in northeast Brazil the following day. She was put into a wooden coffin and sealed into a stone tomb which sat above the ground. Heartbroken, her family left.
So you telling me they done? That's how though. They had a whole funeral. He said people had to wait. And they after that they bury her underground. And oh, that's weird. That's crazy. That's a miracle for real. Like,
Went home, but their story was far from over. Over the next few nights, horrific screams and groans were supposedly heard coming from the
the
graveyard.
next few
Those who
nights.
lived close to the graveyard said that they could hear screams, but they chalked them down to children playing pranks, which wasn't uncommon. However, the noises did not stop. Night after night, screams and groans were heard coming from the cemetery. It took the locals 11 days to report what they were hearing, but they didn't report it to the police. Instead, someone who lived near the graveyard informed the family of what they had heard, which prompted them to return to the graveyard and investigate themselves.
Bro, you telling me she survived 11 days trapped underground, buried alive? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Family, along with a flock of locals, then smashed open the tomb and opened the coffin. According to them, when they opened the coffin, they were absolutely horrified to find that she had been alive.
Hey,
According
man,
to
I would have been like,
witnesses,
oh,
she tried to open the lid. Even the nails had been hammered in were loose. Her hands were injured, like she had been trying to get out. The coffin was in a state, and so were her hands and forehead, which had injuries from where she had tried to fight her way out of the coffin. The nails on the edges of the coffin cover had been raised, and inside there were marks of scratches and blood. One witness said, "When I got there right in front of the tomb, I heard banging from inside it. I thought the kids who play around the cemetery were playing a joke on me. Then I heard her groan twice, and after those two groans, she stopped." After she was dug out of the coffin, Ana Francisco Diaz, who lived nearby, claimed that she was still warm. She stated, "There were more than 500 people who came here and packed the cemetery. Everybody went to see. Lots of people touched her foot, and everybody saw that she was still warm. She
wait,
was
you telling me a bunch of 500 people who were just like random people, I would have never came. Like what? Talking about somebody was pronounced dead. She got buried. Next few days, they hearing something come from the cave. I said the cave, the grave. People come dig her out. She alive. What? Be like, nah, I'm straight. Yeah, that's a miracle. Though. I ain't gonna lie, for real, for real. Like,
lots of people touched her foot, and everybody saw that she was still warm.
touching her foot.
She wasn't cold. They then called an ambulance, but she was again confirmed as dead, and their efforts had been for nothing. But could a woman really have been buried alive and survived for 11 days?
That's what I'm saying.
Many believed so, but many had different conclusions. According to Rosangela's mother, her body was not in the same position as when they buried her. She was absolutely certain that she had been buried alive, but the police disagreed. They said that there was no proof at all that she had been buried alive. They claimed that the victim's mother had been having dreams for days that her daughter was alive, and probably fooled herself into thinking she was. The police clapped back at the family, saying the victim was the same way, intact. Her brother said so himself. They also said the information about injuries to the hands and forehead was not true. And
Okay, I was about to say, like, where all that came from. They were just talking about 500 people out. They opened the grave and she moving. Like, where did all that come from? Who said that? That's crazy, though. Like,
simply rumours. Regarding the fact that there was no decomposition on the body, they said that due to Rosangela being on strong antibiotics during her hospitalisation and the rainy weather, this would have drastically slowed down the decomposition. The police went on to investigate her death and reached out to the hospital, who handed all the information necessary to the police. According to them, more than 20 hours had passed between the woman's death and her burial. Throughout the preparations for the funeral and the wake, there were no indications of life. The doctor said the patient had pulmonary emphysema and was hospitalised with a serious respiratory infection. In ICU, in the last 24 hours before death, the woman already had a serious and irreversible condition. The patient was under a degree of over-monitoring, which would make a medical error and consequent burial of the woman alive impossible. Despite this,
so I'm like, yeah, that ain't really make sense though, cause like they said she was in the hospital. They pronounced her dead, right? After that, they had a whole funeral, like whole funeral. You know, with the funeral, they got the casket open, people come up and stuff like that. You feel me? Like they saw she wasn't alive, and then they bury her. The next few days, they talking about they heard no. I'm like, nah, how? Oh, but sound right, but I repeat to her though.
the hundreds of people present that day still believe Rosangela had been buried alive. Her sister said, "We don't want to accuse any doctor. We don't want to cause any problems. But we witnessed that situation. There was just no way a person could be buried for 11 days and still be warm." Along with this, many witnesses at the graveyard that day said they heard banging, groaning, and more, which led them to smashing open the coffin in the first place. And then there were countless people who said she was still warm when they touched her foot. With two sides saying different things, it is impossible to know for sure whether Rosangela was buried alive, but with evidence of struggle and the noises heard, it's hard to ignore the fact that it was a major possibility. A young woman losing her life is always tragic, so may she rest in peace. As always, this is not an AI channel.
I don't know. What y'all think happened? Maybe because they said it was a sign of struggle. I don't know. She probably was alive but took him 11 days. Like she probably, I don't know. Probably like for the first like 1-2 days she probably was, but like surviving 11 days underground with no oxygen, no food, no water, like that ain't happening. Like for real.